I feel like I've seen this before, guys. This Wembanyama craziness that's going on with his cards. Wembanyama craziness, it kind of reminds me of Shaq in 1992. I was 11 years old, and definitely the game has changed. The sports card market game has way changed since 30 years ago. But we're going to talk through this. I've got a couple of theories, and I want to get your feedback as well. Before I get started, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, My Card Post, the first subscription-based model where there are no selling fees, there are no buyer premiums. It is subscription-based for a very small monthly fee. You're able to easily transact with people. It is set up with a lot of new features. There's a forum set up now. They've got some different features they're adding all the time. I've just started adding some of my Stranger Things cards on here. I'm going to add a few of my sports cards as well and see if we can get some trades going, a little buy, sell, trade going on My Card Post. So definitely check out the link below in the video description as well as in the pinned comments to check it out. All right, I've been paying attention to people that have been getting into breaks for the new Prism basketball in particular. Of course, we have got Wemby. No Wemby autos because Fanatics owns Wemby autos, but everyone is going nuts for the golds and the silver prisms, base prisms, all that stuff. Prism, a highly popular product. And as we know, Panini is probably not going to hold back. We've seen print runs steadily increase. We've seen number of parallels steadily increase over time. And really, what is Panini's motivation to hold back or to cut supply? It seems to me like they're just going to let it rip, and kind of why wouldn't they? As a business, it is their job to make money. But it made me think as I'm seeing a lot of the hits, a lot of Wembanyama cards, coming out, and then you kind of have to question like which ones are special, which parallels are special, and all of that stuff, and which ones are going to get to grading first and then back to be sold. Pop reports, of course, they're going to grow over time. There's so much activity going on, and it kind of made me, again, think back when I was 10, 11 years old. When I was 10, actually, it was Larry Johnson that came out. I remember the 1991 Upper Deck card was a chase card. I remember always looking for that card in the mall. They'd have a kiosk there in the middle of the shopping mall. I know, a shopping mall. Believe it or not, people actually used to go to those. And there was a kiosk, a little card shop there, and they always had at least one of those Upper Deck Larry Johnson cards, sometimes for like $10, $15. That was a hot card back then, but that was leading up to Shaq Mania. And I remember there was the LSU card where he's dunking. Now you can get it for a few bucks. But the big flex back then, of course, no Instagram, but the big flex was stacking these rookie cards. So of course you didn't have numbered cards or parallel cards, or very few of them at least, in 1992. They were just starting to get ramped up with autographs, pack pulled autographs, as well as numbered cards. They were just getting started. Larry Johnson, Shaq, these weren't options there. There weren't pack pulled autos for these guys. I remember that LSU card, and then the two brands in particular, Fleer Ultra and Top Stadium Club. Those were the packs, and I can even see the packs now, buying those packs and trying to find those guys. I remember my mom bought me a box of like 36 packs for like $50 back then, which was a lot for us. And I ended up getting one Shaq card out of that whole box. Not because they weren't printed very much, a short printed card, but that was the main chase. It wasn't the gold prism. The chase was literally just the base rookie card for a particular player, whichever the new kind of hype player was. So you've seen how really this industry has supercharged itself over time. And I think a lot of people back then, as they've grown older into the industry, they have kind of morphed this into the hit parade, for a lack of a better phrase. It is all about the hits and making sure that people can pull out cards. We've kind of already talked, though. We've gotten to a point with parallels where if everything's special, then nothing is special. It's like everyone's getting a participation trophy, out of these packs. Not that I think that Panini's print run rivals that from 1992, because look, it was just high gloss cards that were coming out. They weren't having to do any sort of numbering. There wasn't a lot going into those cards. So I'm sure the printing press just ran and ran and ran. Now there's a little bit more to it. You've got lots of different color of parallels and different shiny inserts. So there's definitely more going on. People could argue that in the 90s, look, there was just better inserts made back then, that the companies have gotten a little bit lazy. Technology, even though we're 30 years later, the technology making cards really isn't that much better. But if we're going to 1992, those were just high gloss cards. We're literally coming off the back of everything being cardboard. And then in 89 Upper Deck, that was the high gloss card. That was, oh man, look, this is a glossy piece of cardboard. And that changed the game, moved us into the 90s where you saw all sorts of different creativity. But like I was saying, I'm seeing a lot of, people that are doing breaks and people that are doing retail for Prism, that there is a lot of Wembanyama cards coming out. And I'm just very curious to see, is this going to kind of rival what we saw going back in time? I saw a backyard post that there's a 1-of-1 Wembanyama that was listed, not sold, listed for $500,000. Of course, the stakes are much, much higher in today's card market compared to 1992. You actually do have these massive hits, these massive pulls. So instead of stacking base cards, everybody's looking for the special numbered parallel type stuff. But if we add up all the special parallel type stuff and all of the base rookie cards, where does it sit, in comparison to where we had kind of those print runs going back? I think Wembanyama is much closer to having a Shaq-like career. I know he plays for the Spurs, who aren't good right now, but he's a young guy. He's playing very limited minutes, and he's showing that he is a dominant player. If he can stay healthy, maybe add some weight on. He's probably never going to be as big as Shaq was. Shaq coming out was just a huge guy. But I think a lot of people looked at Zion as kind of like a Shaq-like figure. Zion just built differently and probably more like Larry Johnson than Shaq. I think Wembanyama, with the hype and everything coming in, of course, he's a much better shooter than Shaq. He's got a completely different game than Shaq, but I'm just talking about market hype and a generational player type market hype. Zion was getting that treatment, but I kind of wonder too, was a lot of that, because of the pandemic kind of boosting it. He came in as a rookie, his cards came out, and then you've got the pandemic where it just seemed like everything was on fire sports-wise because nobody could go watch a game. Everybody was, oh my God, we've got the Last Dance documentary, and, did that feed into kind of Zion mania? I've said before, I think that the number of rookie cards for Wembanyama will eclipse any other player before him, and I don't think that's some amazing take. I just think it's obvious given the fact that Panini, again, moving out, losing the licenses it looks to be here in the next year or two, they have no motivation to hold back. They probably just need to make as much as they possibly can, and I think anyone running their business should do that. I think it just makes sense, but it does beg the question, what is actually rare and collectible scarce? There's just going to be a lot of product for this guy. But again, the autos will be with Fanatics. They'll be somewhere else. Not everyone is collecting autos. They want the low-numbered cards. They like the shiny refractors. They like the shiny prisms. They're not necessarily needing a Wembanyama autograph that's going to cost, 4 or 5 figures, maybe 6 figures in some cases. So this is interesting. There's already been a lot of talk over the last few years, especially as we hit 2020. There's always this kind of catch-up period that I feel like manufacturers do where it's like, oh, the card market's hot. We need to get to it. And there's that shortage, that where they don't have enough product, and then they completely overdo it. And that's kind of where we are, I think. To where print runs, they probably didn't have enough inventory for people going back to 2018, 2019, and entering into 2020. But I remember, 2020 select football. It's like, hey, it's not just hobby anymore. We're going retail, and you can just see the massive increase in parallels that they ended up putting out. And it's only kind of increased over time upward. What is that going to look like for a guy like Wembanyama, who could very well be that next generational talent? His cards, unfortunately, just like with Shaq, are sitting in this kind of junk wax, overprinted wax era to where, is anything going to be worth a ton of money just because there's so much availability for it as time goes on? Right now, there's a lot of short-term plays, on this stuff where people buying it, grading it, selling it, and that sort of thing. And that's kind of that fun kind of churn that happens with a lot of these new rookies that are coming out. But I'm more talking, as we look 3, 4, 5 years down the road and there's another rookie class that everybody's excited about, and maybe it's cooled off, some until Wemby, starts to win. I feel like this has happened with Luka. Luka's cards still remain strong price-wise, but now we're 5 years into the career and he hasn't won anything yet. He's playing amazingly well, but he's not the shiny new toy anymore to collect. It's, after him, it was Zion and Ja, and then we get to LaMelo, and now, we've got Wembanyama, Chet. People are collecting these other guys, and that always happens, and so it'll be really interesting to kind of watch this happen. Let me know your thoughts on this, just kind of thinking back 30 years and some of the big hype guys that were coming out, like a Shaq, larger than life, had a rap video, was in movies, had just a larger than life persona. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.